Yep, we're ready to start.
All right. Welcome to the Coastside Fire Protection District Board of Directors regular board meeting, January 27, 2021. Roll call, please, Jean.
Secretary McShane,
Here.
Director Stockman,
Here.
Director McKimmey.
Here from home.
Okay. Vice President Cockle,
Here.
President Burke,
Here.
and we have Deputy Chief Jonathan Cox.
Yep.
We have, is Ian there?
Ian will potentially be on. He's working an incident in the south.
Okay, and Attorney Savory.
Here, thank you.
Okay, and your name is Colleen Haley?
Yeah.
H-A-I-L-E-Y?
No, just Haley.
H-A-L-E-Y, and you're with CSDA?
Uh-huh.
Okay, and myself, thank you.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do I have a motion on the consent calendar, please?
So moved.
We have a, did I have a second?
Second. I don't know if Jonathan's waiting to make a
And
point.
Bruce is going to recuse himself.
Yes. Bruce McKimmey is recusing himself, so we have a motion and a second. A roll call, please, Jean.
Secretary McShane,
Yes.
Director Stockman,
Yes.
Vice President Cockrell,
Yes.
and President Burke.
Yes,
Passes 401 by roll call.
thank you.
Burke, one moment. There's one person on the line. I don't know if we were going to open it for public comment first.
Sure. We are open for public comment. Whoever the individual is, you're welcome to speak.
Michelle Dragony.
Michelle, unmute yourself, please. Unless you want to talk.
Then with that, I'll close the public comment meeting and move on to the agenda. And without objections, I'm going to change the
Thanks.
agenda
There she
and
is.
allow California Special District Association Field Coordinator Colleen Haley give a presentation to the district. Colleen?
Thank you very much. Well, as I'm sure you know, this is the highest award that we can give to board of directors, and it takes a lot of staff time and work from the board members themselves to get to this point. I'm just going to deliver some formal talking points. These are talking points we always deliver for this award. It goes over the work you had to do, the qualifications, and then finally goes into the actual presentation. I hope you received the award in the mail. It should have been sent to you. So hopefully you can, excellent. Okay, yeah, for the presentation, even better. Excellent. Well done. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started. First of all, let me just say I am your California Special Districts field representative. We cover 6 networks, and so I'm the Bay Area one. So please let me know if you ever need anything. My email is Colleen, HCOLLEEN, h@csda.net. The District of Distinction was founded by the Special Districts Leadership Foundation, which is a 501c3 not-for-profit arm of CSDA. It's dedicated to promoting excellence in special districts throughout recognition programs that highlight and focus on implementation best practices. There are 4 altogether, 2 that districts can go ahead and earn. The transparency one is first. You've already earned your transparency certificate. It's a prerequisite for the District of Distinction. And then there's 2 for individuals, one that board members can earn themselves, the governance certificates, and then 1 that general managers and high-level staff can earn as well, the administration certificate. But we're here to talk about the District of Distinction. This accreditation is designed as a way for districts to highlight their prudent fiscal practices, along with other areas important to effectively operate and govern a special district. The District of Distinction program enables districts to demonstrate to their communities the media, legislators, and stakeholders their commitment to operate in a sound, responsible manner, and that they truly stand out as a district that has gone above and beyond. This accreditation requires clean financial audits for a minimum of 3 consecutive years, proof that the district has essential policy and procedures in place. All directors and designated staff have completed comprehensive training and governance and all the laws pertaining to districts as public agencies. Therefore, why is this award important in this accreditation? Because it demonstrates the district's understanding and respect of the responsibilities inherent in providing essential public services, shows that the district has clean audits and operates in a fiscally responsible and transparent manner, places an emphasis on continuing education within the district, and focuses on having sound policies in the areas of governance, board conduct, district finances, transparency, and district reserves. Therefore, on behalf of the staff and our board of directors of the Special District Leadership Foundation, it's my pleasure to present to the Coastside Fire Protection District with the District of Distinction accreditation in recognition of your commitment to good governance and to ethical and sound practices. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colleen, for taking the time to present that, and very special thanks also to the California Special District Association Foundation. This is our second District of Distinction Award, as the board knows, and on behalf of the board, we certainly thank you for you and the organization for presenting it. To me, the District of Distinction Award has been a motivating factor for a number of things that the district has done, and it really has kept us focused on what we need to do and to make sure that we're really performing as expected by our taxpayers and citizens. So again, thank you very much. I'd also like to, I think it's appropriate to certainly thank Chief Cox and Chief Larkin and any of the other staff involved, because there was a lot of work that was done to get the paperwork and everything else in place. So thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you.
Any other comments that any folks would like to make? If not, then we'll go back to the agenda. And going back to continuing business, I believe, if I've not skipped anything, review and discuss vegetation management recommendations. Chief Cox.
Yeah, thank you, President Burke. At the last board meeting, you directed staff to come up with some recommendations regarding the actions that the district could take regarding vegetation management. The staff report you have in front of you identifies 12 potential recommendations that the district could undertake related to reducing the threat of wildfire in the district, specifically related to vegetation management. That doesn't just pertain to cutting down vegetation, but it also brings into place education, awareness, mitigation, advocacy, preparedness, and policy based on the direction of the board wanting to look at this at a holistic level as far as what actions staff would recommend.
This is a very thorough list of what we might do and some recommendations. And when we get to the strategic plan, I'll make a motion regarding this. But in the meantime, comments from the board members relative to this, or suggestions, or whatever's on your mind.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'd like to acknowledge Jonathan Cox for a terrific job on this. It's almost like a term paper. There's so much to it, and it's wonderful because we have fiscal impact and we have some strategies that we can look into, and administrators. It's a terrific starting point. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Other comments? I guess one of the few things other than getting to the strategic plan, the financial cost of implementing the items that the chief has outlined certainly is not oppressive. It's a little over $18,000 in total. Ultimately, and we'll get to a little more of this when we get to the strategic plan, ultimately there may be some changes, but certainly, as they say, the overall fiscal ramifications are not very severe at all and very well done. The other comment I'd make is that, as I read through this thing, and I guess this was a similar comment I made when we had the review a month ago, and that is that there are an awful lot of hands in the pot on trying to address wildfires and vegetation management, and the acronyms of the LHMP, the CWPP, the whatever CAL FIRE is. That there's an awful lot of people trying to do the right thing with this, and I think one of the challenges when we get to the committee and the strategies is going to be just to make sure that we have a very specific role and way to measure it. But that's my end of my comments. Anything else? Or Chief, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I'd add a couple things. I think there's a couple big considerations right now on the coast side to really highlight. I think firstly is really the heightened concern, awareness, desire for action surrounding eucalyptus and tree removal in general. I think that is something that the Board of Supervisors is looking at with the Resource Conservation District to come up with a programmatic permitting process that really streamlines from the moment someone desires to get rid of a eucalyptus on their property to how quickly they can get it done. And I think the district's support for that programmatic permitting is probably one of the single biggest action items for addressing probably what I perceive as one of the highest concerns on the coast. I think second to that is the Coastside chipping program that the Fire Safe Council conducts. I think really just advocating and working collaboratively with them as they expand that program. And really what that means is just being a good partner to them and really facilitating the priority areas that we see in the district for getting that curbside chipping taken care of. So those are the two that stand out the most to me. I think the third is really just a little bit of education and advocacy within the community regarding getting more information out there about what the requirements are, as well as providing firsthand firefighter knowledge transfer to those homeowners and property owners about what are the best actions they can take.
Thank you, Chief. Board members, other remarks or comments?
I would say, I'm very pleased to see the informational and the educational aspects of this. I think maybe short of an earthquake, it's the biggest overall risk, community risk, is wildland fire. And I think it's probably for all of us being Coastsiders, there's also, I don't want to use the word fear, but it's probably the biggest concern that most of our customers, of the citizens, have of potential, right up there with evacuation. But I think evacuation is tied into this. So I'm very pleased to see for us to take a more stronger approach to this. So thank you, Jonathan.
You bet.
Don't you worry. If I see a fire coming over towards my house, I'm going to evacuate. That's going to.
Yeah.
The thing that jumped out at me is the process to remove eucalyptus trees. I know that the University of California apparently has done it, and they started out this process quite a few years ago. And I was astounded to find out they're just now getting it done because of all the people that protested, didn't want to harm these beautiful trees, which they're not. But anyhow, that's, so they had to work their way through the process, and now they're going, what should have been about a $250,000 job is now going to cost them probably in the millions. And I was hearing on the news the other day, it looks like a logging operation. Well, look around here and look at all the eucalyptus trees. If we can do something about it, it's going to look like a logging operation here as well. So I think that would go a long way towards mitigating some of our dangers.
Gary, another
Yes.
thing is that many residents currently are being denied fire insurance due to the threat of eucalyptus wildfires that could be uncontrollable. And the insurance companies are really putting a stake in the ground. They're afraid
Yeah,
that we're going to have some conflagration and that they'll be liable for premium or damages. So everybody's for this.
I agree. And as I mentioned, I'd like to come back to this a little bit later in the agenda, but I think this is a great template to begin with and to give us a style on what we need to do and how we need to go about it. So again, thank you, Chief. With that, going on to continuing business, B, review and discuss mid-year deliverables. Again, Chief Cox.
Thank you, President Burke. If you'll recall, as a part of the 6-year operating plan that was adopted last, I believe it was May or June, one of the items in there was the annual deliverables based on fiscal year. And I just thought it was prudent before reviewing the strategic plan for the year, just to review where we are operationally regarding our operational deliverables. All of them are pretty straightforward. I would say the only outlier in all of this that we probably didn't anticipate when we signed the contract was COVID. And that's just had an impact on our mandatory inspections because businesses and locations have been closed. And that's probably one thing that we'll be making a stronger push over the next 6 months as things ease, is to get back and get those mandatories completed. We'll bring you a more comprehensive report as to where we stand on the mandatories for the last calendar year, but I wanted to at least daylight where we are on the deliverable side as you start the discussion of your strategic plan.
Thank you, Chief. Comments, questions? Chief, I just thank you for taking the initiative to provide this update to us. It's too often a lot of great plans were made, and these were put together by a couple of board members and yourself, and it's just really nice to have the follow-up to ensure we're keeping track of it. So thank you for that. Anything else? All right, moving on. Item C, continuing business response, and discuss response from IT consultant, the grand jury, Chief Cox.
I'm going to use one of my 3 deflections to Jean on this one.
Yes, good evening. On October 7th, the grand jury issued a report entitled "Ransomware is Not Enough." And the board took a look at that and responded to it, agreeing with its recommendations and findings. And one of those was a request that all local agencies go to their IT consultants and obtain a report that would address specific aspects of your IT system. The first being security, the second being backup and recovery, and then prevention. So attached is a summary of the information that's been provided to the chief by your IT consultant. The chief and I are available to answer any of your questions. This is basically an informational report, or if you want us to go back to your IT consultants and gather additional information, we are more than happy to do so. And with that, we'll answer any questions that we can, or obtain more specific information from the IT consultants. Thank you.
Jean, I'd ask, is this something that we need to approve, or is this just further information?
It is just an informational report to you, and we're looking, if you have any concerns after reading what your IT consultants have indicated, then you should advise us of those, and we can go back and work further with your IT consultants. But it is basically an informational report.
I'd just like to ask the chief or Jean or any board member who has a lot more IT knowledge than I, is this satisfactory and we happy with it? Because I read it and it looks fine to me, but I certainly don't have the skill to really go into depth on these things.
Yeah, President Burke, I can give you my experience so far, and that is not only do we have a robust system, but we also have the 24-hour monitoring for any intrusions that do come in. Nothing that I've experienced so far raises any red flags surrounding it.
Well, then, unless some board members have any opinion, I would say that the board is in agreement. We accept the report and thank you for it. No objections.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, very good. Moving on to new business, item A, selection of board committee members. And it has my name after it. And I'm going to make some suggestions, and obviously any board member can change it at this time or any time in the future. But rather than going through all of these one by one, I'm going to outline a committee organization, and if there's no disagreement, we'll vote on it, or if there is, we'll amend it. So let me just go through this is what I would suggest to you, that the finance committee going forward would consist of myself and Director Cockrell. The vegetation management would consist of Director McShane and Director Stockman. The land and structure would be Director Cockrell and Director McKinney. The liaison reporting, the volunteer would be Director Cockrell. The emergency response would be Director Stockman, and the JPA in the San Mateo group of the California Special District would be myself. That would be my recommendations. Comments or changes that you would like to do? Hearing none, I'd like to have a motion on the recommend.
One comment from me, please. I don't know if there's a place to put it and how much attention it needs. I shared both with you and Chief Cox about the possibility of participating more in following the Fire Districts Association of California.
Yeah.
I think it's untapped in a sense of, I think it provides great information. I think there should be at least a liaison position that follows it, or treated as a committee position, but I think that should be, and I think it provides information that's probably changing monthly. You know, I think it's worth a trial to be involved in it and to see what its value is.
Thank you, Steve. Let me just, first of all, Chief Cox, do you have any experience or any knowledge about the, I keep getting the name, California, help me, what is?
Of California.
Steve, what is it's the California Fire?
It's Fire Districts Association of California.
Fire Districts Association of California. Chief Cox, do you have any experience with this organization?
I don't know.
I looked up on the web, Steve, as you mentioned, and it looks fine. They've done good work. They're the fastest organization, and insurance is part of their activities. And I certainly would, at least for the time being, be willing to explore and join them to see how it's not that I called and asked, I said, how much is this going to cost if we were to join? And it was a little bit of a pause. I'm not sure. But anyway, they says, oh, about $500. So it was not a big expense to do it. And I would just suggest, as far as the liaison, that at least initially, I'd be willing to be that liaison to the organization and to try to get a little bit more information on how valuable they might be, and report back to the board as to what else we might do in regards to participating with them. Does that answer it, Steve?
Yeah, it does. And also I see Jeff's on, Jeff Katz. I know Jeff has attended, they have conferences regarding station construction, architecture. Jeff, do you have any input on the value of their conferences?
Good evening. I'm not as familiar with their conferences specifically, but I think any opportunity to share experiences and learn from what others are doing is always a good thing. And I know when I've attended these similar conferences, I always come away with a lot of good information.
Mr. Burke,
Well,
I was on the board when I served in Montera Fire District. I represented Area 4, which was South San Francisco through Monterey. And this has been maybe 10 years ago, and it was a wonderful organization. Great ideas, great conferences, terrific materials.
Good. Well, look, then let's do this, because I think looks like it's unanimous that we should participate in it. And I guess I would just ask for a roll call vote, please, Jean, to say that we will join initially and try to participate and see who will be representing us. And I will do it initially just to start. Is that all right?
Great.
Is there a
All right,
motion? and a
we-
second?
We have a motion to join. Who'd make a second?
I second.
Roll call, please, Jean.
Who was the second? I'm sorry, who was the second?
Steve,
Stockman, okay. Okay, Secretary McShane,
Yes,
Director Stockman,
Yes.
Director McKimmy,
Yes.
Vice President Cockrell,
yes.
and President Burke.
Yes.
Just for.
Now back to
California Fire Districts Association. Is that the name of the organization?
Fire Districts Association of California.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Steve.
All right, we've taken care of that, and back to my original suggested committee assignments. Is there any disagreement with that? And if not, consider it done. So those are the new committee assignments. I repeat what I said earlier. If we go forward, if anybody else wants to change it, they're not set in stone, we'll change it. But those are the new committee assignments. Okay, moving on. Under new business, review and discuss and update the strategic plan, and it has my name on it. And in your packet, of course, is the strategic plan that we've been operating on for some time. And, you know, this is obviously one of the major things for any board to do is to have a strategic plan. And in the past, it certainly kept us focused on an awful lot of things that you can see in the paperwork going back to 2016. And even before that, we didn't keep the ones we had, but even such things as merging the two districts, and even the original contract with CAL FIRE was one of the strategic items. So it certainly kept us focused on that. If you look to on the page 3, if you look at the pending and strategic items that we had put in place, one was complete the decision for the new fire station 44. And I certainly would recommend that we keep that, obviously, but just really update the target date to 2021. The 2016 pending strategic initiatives were to complete a detailed cost benefit analysis on staffing the heavy rescue vehicle. And if you recall, Chief Larkin provided that to us, and it was completed this past year. If you look at the 218 new strategic plans initiative, was to complete the volunteer policy. And again, we did complete that last year. And we did, on the second item, was renew and continue the CAL FIRE contract for 7 years. And that also was completed. The 2018 was to maintain the District of Distinction Award. And obviously, based on the award this evening, we did complete that. The fourth item, which is, as far as I know, we did not complete, and that was to adopt a drone use policy. And Chief Cox, I guess that's still in the works. Is that the case?
Yeah, that's right. You know, we're still a participant in a grant countywide. This is to say this issue is evolving in a lot of different directions is an understatement, from getting the licensing to getting the training to staying current to even what we just experienced for the last few years, which was not being able to buy drones that had parts made in China. Was all these limiting factors coming together. But I think we're in a new era right now. I think from a department standpoint, our drone program at the state level is making some big advances. And I think over the next coming years, we'll see a lot more ability for us to engage in that and deploy it.
Well, then I would just ask to keep that on the strategic plan, but simply change the date to it to 2021 or 22, whatever you think is appropriate. And Chief, those items that I've mentioned that we've completed or needed to be updated, I'd like to keep them listed as to the completion date so we have some kind of historical information on them. And then I'm going to make I'll make a suggestion. In fact, I'll make a motion that we include 2 new strategic plans. But before I do that, let me just touch on a couple of other things. There's 3 probably, at least in my mind, there's 3 probably major items that are facing the district now, besides the obvious operational things that are under control. But certainly CalPERS is a major item for us, and we had an update on that a month ago, and that's going to be with us. And as we discussed at that point, we just have very little ability to do with that. It is what it is, and we're going to live with it, and we can handle it. The new Station 44 and all the aspects of that is certainly one of the things that is at the top of the agenda. And I think we'd all agree that now a vegetation management plan and action are certainly appropriate. So there's those 2 items. If you brainstorm what we might do. I mean, I went through a list of items, and I'll ask you for your input. But I thought, well, listen, we have a parcel tax. We have actually 2 parcel taxes that go back to Point Montero and us, and they're becoming, because they're not rated for inflation, they're becoming less and less a problem or less of money for the district. One of the things we could do is just to reduce it or have a tax reduction. But it's such a small item, and it would have to go to the voters for a vote. And I just thought it would kind of detract us from some other things to do that. But that's, the brainstorm. The second item I gave a wild thought to is that the healthcare and PAS is doing well. Maybe we should consider offering a buyout to some employees when we have the money. And again, I think that at this point might be a distraction from the major items, which I think are involved, and that is 44 and the vegetation management. Any other inputs? And then I'll make a couple of recommendations. Any thoughts, items, objections? Is the volume on?
Yeah, I just didn't want to step on anybody. So as far as my opinion, Gary, as far as lowering the tax assessment in both districts, is we're going to get hit one of these days, with, salaries are going up.
Yeah.
Granted, construction is going leaps and bounds, but I would feel better if we just kept it the same. It's not that big a deal, $35 a year. And I just think.
Yeah, no, Bruce, I agree. I think it is not that big a deal. As I say, it was just brainstorming. If we were to do it at some point in time, I'd like to have it attached to inflation, and it's not now. That's
correct.
It keeps getting a smaller end, but I'm with you. I'm not proposing that. Yes. Other objections or comments? Well, then let me. I'm going to make 2 suggestions to add to the strategic plan. First of all, is to increase the reserve for the new Station 44 to $10 million. It's a little over roughly $8 million now. And I think it appears that we will have fund balances this year, and hopefully that we would direct them and specifically put them in the LAIF account until we get to $10 million. I have no idea what the land and the cost of the station is going to be, and probably all of that will be decided when we're long gone. But I think getting it to $10 million is a worthy objection, and I would recommend that. And the second item I would recommend adding to the strategic plan is that we develop and implement a board of directors approved plan for vegetation management for the Coastside Fire Protection District. And what I'm referring to is that the committee that we now have of Ginny and Steve would take, and certainly Chief Cox would take the recommendations that the chief made earlier as well as other things that they might develop, and come back to the board one time or a number of times with what their recommendations are, that we can actually get something done and really take some actions. And there are so many things that we can do. So it's just to ask the committee and Chief Cox to develop and implement a board-approved plan for the whole area of vegetation management. Those are my two recommendations. Comments, objections, or adds?
I support both of those. Yes.
Yeah, me too.
Do I take
Well-
that as a motion and a second?
I don't know. Did anybody second?
Well, it'll be Stockman, right?
I would be the mover, so I
I
will.
think we got a second. All right.
I moved it, Steve seconded, as I understand. Thank you.
Any further discussion at,
Mr. President,
yeah,
along with this, Chief Sampson and I were talking about the maps. The fire agencies respond to wildland fire events. And there's a lot of territorial maps that go hand in hand with this, and bureaucracies. So we need to find out who actually can pull the trigger on some of these items. I've been working with Supervisor Horsley and following him because he's doing a lot with the San Mateo County parks. So I'm gathering so much information, and there's a wonderful lady, Michelle Dragoni, who writes for BuzzFeed or something like that. And she does a beautiful job of summarizing points like this. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
well,
Happy to help. Whenever you get a message, just let me know. I'll get it out.
Thank you, Michelle. You're doing a great job.
great.
Gary,
Sure.
it seems like it's an appropriate time to ask both Chief Cox and Chief Larkin. I know this is our responsibility to set the strategic path for the district, but as leadership, is there anything either of you recognize that as in managing this district that we are leaving out?
Good suggestion.
Yeah, thanks, Director Stockman. I think both of those items are extremely appropriate. I think Chief Larkin may have a better perspective on kind of district leadership level ideas.
Yeah, I totally think we're on the right track. So, the district's evolving each day as we move forward and expanding what we're doing, just like rejoining the Fire District Association of California. Those are all big steps. They're heavily involved in legislation and things of that nature that can help the district be a part of the changing fire service in California. So, I think that perspective, the path that we're on and the recommendations we're making to your board, I think are putting us on that path to continue down that road.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Other comments or suggestions?
Sounds good to me.
Then we have a motion and a second to update the new strategic plan. Roll call, please, Jean.
Secretary McShane,
Yes.
Director Stockman,
Yes.
Director McKinney,
Yes.
Vice President Cockrell,
Yes,
President Burke.
Yes,
Yes, it's 5-0 by roll call.
thank you. New business item D, adopt resolution 2021-01, resolution of the board of the Coastside Fire Protection District declaring seasonal weeds a public nuisance. Chief Cox.
I'll defer to Jean Savory, please.
Yes, good evening again. This is the first step in a yearly important process that you undertake in order to make sure that seasonal weeds are removed from properties within the district. Before you tonight is the resolution declaring certain properties to constitute a public nuisance due to weeds on them, and to require the property owners to clean, cut, or remove those weeds. If you adopt this resolution, those property owners will be advised of this and asked to eliminate that fire hazard. They will have a chance to address the board on April 28th, 2021, if they disagree with being listed on this. So staff requests that you adopt the attached resolution and begin this yearly process. Thank you.
Do I have a motion to approve resolution number 2021-01?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call, please, Gene.
Secretary McShane,
Yes.
Director Stockman,
Yes.
Director McKimmy,
Yes.
Vice President Cockrell,
Yes.
President Burke.
Yes,
This is 5-0 by roll call.
thank you. Moving on to, did we get them all? Yes, to the committee reports. The Finance Committee is the spreadsheets, of course, are in your packet and are a public document. A couple of just quick items. Our revenue year to date is slightly higher than it was at this point a year ago. Our net balances in San Mateo County, for example, for the total amount for Coastside District is $6.2 million, up $500,000 from this point a year ago. In Leith, we currently have a little over $10 million in total. A year ago, we had $12 million, but of course, we've used $2 million of that on Station 41. A year ago at this time, we had not made any CAL FIRE quarterly payments, and in our expenses so far this year, we've paid a payment of $1.3 million to CAL FIRE. I'd remind the board that when we approved the budget, we also approved an increase in costs this year for increased personnel and organizations and the new contract for CAL FIRE, but the annual cost to CAL FIRE is going to increase is planned to increase some $314,000. But that is something we approved in the past. Our expenses year to date is $5.3 million, which surprisingly is almost $1 million less than it was at this time a year ago. So we're certainly the chief is handling expenses very well. So that's just a quick summary of the finance. I'll make a comment on PAS here in just a moment, but any question on the finances from any board members, or any comments, Chief Cox, that you'd like to make?
Not too much. On the revenue side, just recognizing that from all of those fire deployments this summer, the district has received almost $70,000 back in reimbursement for the use of equipment that the district rented out, which is an important one to highlight. And then just some of the larger item ones that we discussed earlier in the year, such as the second set of protective gear. That is going to be a lagging indicator just because it is a purchase order request, so it has a 4-month lead time on it. So we'll see some of those numbers increase on the purchase order items, but overall nothing alarming.
Thank you, Chief. Other board member comments or questions? If none, let me just call your attention to the PAS report is in the packet as well, and both the November and December report. In the November report, we had an earnings gain of $338,000, and in December we had an additional gain of $139,000, which is obviously very positive. I suspect that this month it's not going to be anywhere near as healthy, but that's what we're doing. It's interesting to look at. We make, I believe we started making the payments for the retirees' healthcare. I think it was in 2016 or 17 that we started making payments directly from PAS as opposed to in our annual budget. So we've paid certainly well over $1 million. I didn't take the time to look at the exact amount of money, but I think it's interesting to note that as of January 1st, even though we paid this $1 million+ for healthcare, our corpus on the account, the amount we have in total in PARS is actually more than when we began. So the benefits of having interest and earnings from PERS is very obvious. And as you'll notice that on the December report, it notes that in the 10 years, our average return has been a little over 8%. And our investments in PARS is not designed to be maximum risk, but it's a balanced investment at this point in time. So it's a very healthy report from PARS. Any questions on PARS? None? Okay, moving on. Volunteer Committee, Director Cockrell.
No report.
Land and Structures Committee, Director Cockrell or anybody, Director Stockman?
I think I would pass mine to Bruce as the new board member. I've had no involvement in the last month regarding that.
Basically, I don't think we can do anything until we get the appraisal on Station 41.
I would like what the status of appraisal is. Where are we at on that? Is it in the queue for them?
Yeah, I can answer that, Director Stockman. If you remember, we signed a contract with Fabro and Associates for appraisal services. We engaged them for the old 41, and my correspondence with him earlier this month, he was going to try to get the report by this meeting. I'm reiterating how important it is to us. If it's not here by next meeting, then I think it's worthy of a follow-on conversation.
Thank you.
Director
Chief,
McKinney, do you have any observations on 41? I know you've been so involved.
Yeah, so Jonathan, when are we gonna revisit the punch list?
Yeah, so Jeff's on the line, and I think probably in the next 2 weeks would be my guess is when we're all going to reconvene back there.
Okay, just keep me posted.
thank you.
Okay. Moving on, Vegetation Management, Director McShane, anything else that you'd like to add?
It's just basically herding cats right now. So I'm really happy that we're forming this partnership with the chief and Director Stockman. We'll have a lot to do, and we'll pull something together and make sure that our community is safe.
Very good. I'm sure you'll do this, Chief Cox, but if you just make sure under continuing business in the following months that we have a vegetation management update each month, if you would, please. Does Director McKinney any special districts or San Mateo chapter report? No report. Okay. Emergency preparedness.
Sorry.
Emergency preparedness, Director Stockman.
Yes, I'll give my normal keep update as well as one item I want to slip in here is to acknowledge and talk a little bit about the drownings that are happening on the coast side. I think this last one was pretty tragic. Well, they're all tragic, but I think we all understand the risk that happens when visitors come to the coast side. I want to start by just saying I don't necessarily think there's something the district needs to do. I think operationally and as first responders, the district should be very proud of the way of the responses and what we're capable of doing and what we're not capable of doing. I bring this topic up today because I think the real issue is education and prevention. And I think, it's something that is multi-agency. It's really a complex problem to solve because it involves the Coast Guard, the state parks, CAL FIRE and the fire district, the sheriff's office. It's in those responses, everybody comes to try to save those lives. And I think that's being done very well. Just the reality of it is when somebody's swept in the ocean, it's too late almost. It almost takes a really significant accumulation of responders to save lives. But I really think the problem lies, so each of those agencies are doing their best, but I think where we're failing is the agencies aren't coordinated together on education and prevention. And I think that's what's going to save lives. And I think, you know, as a board in our direction to staff, I would say it's just to somehow gather those agencies together, especially at this crucial point. I think it's a good timing. I don't know how close everyone's been following it, but maybe just through the media, but you know, the family of this latest death, you know, they were very organized in searching for their son's body. And with that, they're looking for ways to move forward and prevent this from happening. So I think it's a perfect public-private chance of agencies to start having that conversation. And anybody that's where the success is going to lie. So I will ask Chief Cox and Chief Larkin again, if what their perspective is on that. I certainly, again, I'm not recommending any change within the district, especially in any way operationally, but I'm curious what everybody else's thoughts are.
Steve, do they have any signs posted down by the beach about the undertow?
Well, yeah, I would say the state parks have done a good job of almost every park, every access has some kind of warning of those dangerous beaches. But I think in reality, those things aren't stopping people from being too close to the water or understanding what high danger days are. So how that would play out on changing that signage, something's going to have to be elevated, I think, to prevent that.
So the media pounded out there, danger, 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 high waves, high surf, danger. There's signs at the beaches, you know, danger. People walk right past the signs and go down there and stand right next to the water. And here comes Mr. Wave. I mean, it happens all the time. I don't know. People think they're made of Teflon, or they don't know any better.
Right.
You can only do so much. It's a shame. It's tragic, but you can only do so much. So.
Well, yeah, but that's true. But that's where I'm like, I don't know if I'm in any kind of position to affect this, that I can say that we can't do anything. You know, something has to be done different than we're doing now. And the problem is those visitors that come to our beaches, they don't understand that. They're sometimes from the Valley or the East Bay, and many come from out of state. So when they step on that beach, they assume that that's what that beach looks like all the time, and those conditions look like all the time. And so it's really going to take a unique approach of messaging to affect that. But it really comes down to, I think it's going to take some kind of messaging that is posted at each beach that gets people's attention. An example I'll use is every day when I walk down at the harbor along there, those signs that come out of whatever association that is, Bruce's National Boating Association, those posters that show visual pictures that talk about real people losing their life, how simple things can save lives. I think I picture that kind of public messaging is going to be the items that make a difference. And so I think again, we're talking about that at a district board meeting, but I think I'm bringing it up because I think the board and staff has the ability to maybe bring all those agencies together and just see where we stand and what the possibilities are. Every day, as the Chief Larkin spoke, this is all evolving every day. The fire service is evolving every day. Our Coastside is evolving every day. So to say what we've been doing in the past, it was working, it's not. So I know I'm a little passionate on our message, but I guess I'm just trying to direct us to somehow pull the responding agencies together and start brainstorming, not necessarily from an operational standpoint, but how do we educate the visitors that are coming to the coast? And with that, I'll let, if anybody wants to have any more discussion on that, otherwise I'll go to the keep minutes. I would like to hear from either Chief Cox or
Yeah, Chief
Larkin.
Cox or Chief
Yeah.
Larkin, do you have any?
I appreciate that. And I think Director Stockman, I think, for me, anyone who's a parent, it's gut wrenching to even think about that situation. And it just leaves you wanting to do all you can to make sure it doesn't happen again. I think I can speak from personal experience. I actually, off my family, obviously, lives a little bit further south from here on the coast. And I actually was off duty on the beach on Easter a few years ago and had this exact situation where someone drowned on the beach when I was on it. Performed CPR. Luckily, the person survived, but it was a huge wake-up call for me that just how real this is. And I think if you look across California over the last 2 months, there's been more than a dozen people who've died on the ocean or the cliff. So there's by no means any doubt that this is an issue statewide, specifically locally. And I think that there's a lot of complexity here, right? Because we're the agency of EMS, Coast Guard's the agency outside the break. State Parks has jurisdiction over the actual beaches that are state parks, which are not all the beaches on the coast. And then you have the Harbor District who assists in the Sheriff's Office. For me, I'm in complete agreement. Some more collaboration with our partners is definitely a good starting point. I also think that signage is a possibility, but I don't think there's any substitute for a person being there saying, you guys shouldn't be out there right now. You shouldn't be near the water. And I only say that because of personal experience again, and having told people when I'm at the beach, hey, these waves get really big on the rocks. It's probably not a good idea just to kind of look out for one another. So I think that's a possibility, is just thinking about ways to, that neighbor helping neighbor mentality. I also think it might be good to reach out to some of these people who have maybe been impacted and get their sense of what would have helped, right? Like, how do you think this could have been prevented? And really get their input, because they may have some good ideas to share, or they may have an organization or a cause that they're already heading up. But by all means, I'm in full agreement that it's tragic. It's impossible to sit by and watch it happen time and time again. And happy to help collaborate however I can.
Thank you.
Let me relate one thing that happened, because this was actually 2 or 3 months ago. But I was walking down by the beach, where not too far from one of the young men was drowned, and there was another group there with a couple of dogs and a young, I guess it was a young boy, and they were running out in the ocean and all that type of thing. And I thought I was doing a service and said, gee, I know this is very difficult, very dangerous. I says, you really shouldn't do this. I says, you might have negative consequences and so forth. And very politely, the gentleman got mad at me. He thought I was interfering with him and trying to boss him around and all that type of thing.
Oh,
and so forth.
yeah, I was guessing.
I don't know any way to fix stupidity. It's tough. Anyway, look, Steve, your message is well received. Chief Cox, Chief Larkin, I'd like to take you under advisement. Anything we can do, let's do it. Okay.
Excuse
right.
me. I just wanted to, I covered on the same evening, same afternoon at Ross's Cove, there was a rescue right before the Cowles Beach rescue. Well, I covered that rescue. Rob Calla, who is a
We lost you, Michelle.
She, if she comes back on, please interrupt us if she comes back on.
his pants were wet up to his knee.
It's not
Bill,
working.
you're in and out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll move on quickly with the keep report so we can finish up. A meeting on 1/8 on the 8th of this month. Again,
Yes.
great participation, where you had 28 members for that meeting. There was an update from Mike McKeon from SMC OES. about the changing weather. We talked about clarifying the VOAD, the volunteer organizations acting in disasters. As you know from the previous meeting, I talked about whether or not that was active and was essential, and that's still being clarified. There is some changing in the tsunami draft maps coming, expected in March and April. They changed some language from inundation zone to a hazard zone. So I think they're trying, that must be from a federal government level, trying to get those maps more updated. MRC, which I think is crucial to the coast side, that's moving forward. Harrison Stein from the county is leading that. We've submitted an application. There are up to 1,000 people in the county. So medics, nurses, doctors have volunteered to be part of that. So I think you're really going to see the impact of that soon. Corey from the city talked more about COVID, the continuing COVID testing. Remember, they do it on Mondays at the Ted Outcock Center. Seniors 50 plus and over, that's for testing, not vaccines. And they talked about adding a tsunami kiosk, a tsunami kiosk. So again, back to our messaging at Poplar Beach. They're trying to stay ahead of that. Cynthia Sherrill from CERT has given us a report in a while, but I think the biggest change for CERT has been the 52 Listros graduates with the last partying with them. So we're starting to see our underserved Coastside members being involved in CERT. I think that's going to be a huge positive impact to the Coastside. And that's all I have. So thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Attorney's report.
Nothing, thank you.
Fire Chief's report, Chief Cox
Yeah,
and Chief Larkin.
yeah, I'd like to just start off really quick by bringing forward two items, and they're both in the board pack. One of them is titled "The Final Invoice for DL Falk." The other is the board resolution for DL Falk. Don't be led to confusion. When it says final invoice, that's final contract invoice for the contractual amount, and the board resolution on the Falk contingency. I just wanted to bring these forward to talk in general about the closeout process for the new 41 as far as the payments are concerned. But I wanted to kind of turn it over to Jean first to make sure we don't dip into a closed session conversation and just kind of get her perspective before we talk about this.
Yes, the chief and I are happy to take any questions you may have. And as you know, we've had some disputes with the contractor in closing out this project. So if we think that it's more appropriate to respond to you by a confidential memo, we'd appreciate your understanding of that. And we will make sure we get you whatever information you need. Thank you.
Very good. Chief Cox?
Yeah, just to kind of highlight those two things, just to make sure we're all understanding. The contract amount for DL Falk is what that final payment invoice was for. There is still the contingency amount, which is the amount. No, sorry, there's Jeff. I'm getting it wrong. What's the amount that the board approved beyond? It was contingency, correct?
Contingency. Yes.
Right. The contingency amount for the change orders that were the unforeseen items that we had to change after the construction began. Just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention that we are under that amount on the change order side, and that we anticipate in the next 30 days bringing hopefully a notice of completion before you.
Anything else, Chief?
Just one item. One of the concerns that we've had from neighbors around the new 41 is the lighting. Just the brightness of the lights has been a concern of the neighbors. We've gone back to the architect and to the contractor and asked for a proposal for a change order that we can actually dim the lights down a little bit and not have it be too bright for people. we're trying to find a balance between firefighters having the light they need for safety for when people walk up with a medical emergency or them responding to calls, to meeting what the neighbors are concerned about. So just to kind of daylight it in public, that's the change order that we're working on right now, is a dimming change order to bring that lighting into a place where we can bring it down a little bit across the campus.
How many neighbors are complaining? 1, 2, 7?
We've had, I know of just, well, I've had a couple different dialogues from different people at different levels. So one at the neighbor level and one at the county level. So that's why we're just trying to find a solution that actually, shows good faith that we're actually trying to meet the needs of the community.
So the neighbor went to the county?
They came to the district, and then I heard from the county too, just on a follow-up conversation.
Okay, all right, cool.
And Jeff's here to answer any questions too, if you guys have any questions about that.
I mean, I got a dimmer out in the garage. I'll go put it in. Sure, it's no big deal.
Beyond that, just a few updates. COVID-19, we continue to take precautions here at the district for firefighters. We have no current cases within our crews and ranks right now in the county for our department. We have had our second round of vaccinations over the last few days. I was in bed for most of the day yesterday as a result, so it's had a little bit more of an impact on the second round, but it's good news that we've had those available for our first responders. We also have our EMTs and paramedics now volunteering to administer the vaccine. So our firefighters will, if a mass vaccination clinic materializes in the county, may be called upon to help assist giving those vaccines to the general public. As far as personnel are concerned, you guys saw the email regarding Chief Cosgrave being appointed the new Division Chief of Operations. That's a TAU appointment in our agency, which is a temporary appointment for up to 1 year, contingent upon passing the examination. So we're excited to have him on board, a huge asset to the coast, and already been the incident commander for a potential debris flow in the South County since he's come on board. So he's coming with a kind of a lot of momentum. We have the interviews for the staff service analyst, the SSA, scheduled for February 10th and 11th. So we should have some more information with that next month. As far as calls go, average call volume, obviously the water rescues have been an increased number in the district. 2 significant ones, actually, while we've been on this call, I had another water rescue out in the harbor tonight. And we've also had another evacuation, as you probably saw, on the south coast in the burn scar. About 350 people have been evacuated from 4 zones in that area. The good news is the evacuation management platform Zone Haven is actually been used again successfully. And Chief Cosgrave was instrumental in swearing in and actually coordinating the CERT response down there, which included some CERT assistance from the Coastside CERT, lending aid to the South County.
Terrific. Terrific.
Yeah, really, really good deployment there. No debris flow so far. As far as training goes, we held a company officer 2B class here this week. We have a hazardous materials incident commander class taking place Thursday on Friday, and we're still on track for a volunteer academy in the spring. They're conducting their interviews tonight for those members. As far as inspections are concerned with prevention, we sent out several hundred business inspection letters asking businesses to self-certify this year that they were meeting the requirements in the fire code, and we'll keep the number of responses we get for that. But that decision was made based on the COVID precautions and the requirements of our inspectors. Facilities, we already talked about the final punch walk for 41, waiting on the appraisal, and we are still working on that fuel vault replacement at 44 that is going to have to get replaced because of all the corrosion. The RFP responses for the painting of the exterior of Station 40 are due by January 30th, so we should bring that to you next month at the board meeting for approval. The only thing of concern is during that windstorm we had about a week and a half ago, some of the top kind of exterior metal flashing on Station 40's east side tore off. So it caused a little bit of damage. We'll have to get that repaired. But I guess with 60 to 70 mile an hour winds, that's not too bad of a injury for the facility. As far as apparatus, the apparatus committee is working on the final specifications for the engine order. We hope to be able to place that order here this spring. We're still working on the outfitting of those new battalion chiefs vehicles. And a big change happening at 4 a.m. tonight, tomorrow morning, is the new county CAD dispatch is switching over to the what we call AVL, automated vehicle locators, new dispatch system. So all of our resources will be dispatched based on where they are on the map, not what the card says on the wall. And that's a big switch. We're all a little bit nervous, and I think there'll be some early mornings and long days for a few of us tomorrow just to make sure the system works properly, but a pretty big technological development for the entire county. Happy to answer any questions or if anything from Chief Larkin.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, I have nothing else to add. I think Jonathan covered it all.
Okay.
What was that? What's it? Go ahead, Bruce.
So new subject. I don't know if we need to put it on the agenda or whatever. I would like to look at replacing the letters in the lobby, the HMB Fire Protection District, those big red tall letters, and maybe replace them with CFD. Coastside Fire. I'm sure the volunteers would like those letters, and that'd be great. They can put them in their clubhouse when they build it. But it's time, I think, to recognize we are Coastside Fire Protection District.
All right, I'm not sure. I guess maybe I didn't notice it, but Chief Cox, if you take a look at whatever that is and see what we can do with it, please. Okay.
Happy to.
All
Yeah,
right.
I looked at that. I looked at those as being more historical, but maybe there's a more appropriate place, I agree, than the lobby that causes any confusion.
Okay.
I do have one question, Chief Cox. We don't talk about it often, but is staff satisfied with the tower? Is there any as far as how it's holding up, how it's performing, how it's designed? Is there anything that should be of significance? I mean, we're all very proud of that tower, but are there any things you're finding that weren't predictable?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd probably defer to Chief Lord and the training staff on that one because they have a lot of intimate knowledge. For me, I haven't heard any complaints, which probably is a good thing, but I can definitely get back to you after asking them.
I do have one item, and I've talked to Chief Lord about it. On the interior of the building, there wasn't enough anchor points for some of the classes that we teach using that building. And I know him and I have discussed having a vendor come out and look and see where we can put the appropriate anchor points for some of the classes for the fall protection that's required for any above ground training. So,
Right. Thank you.
Other comments? Let me make just a couple of quick ones, if you will, just to make sure we understand that on the contract for Station 41, those additional amounts that were over the original contract sum was required that we put in a emergency fund, and I thought it was 15%. But whatever that amount was, we, the board, voted for it. It was part of our original expectations. So it isn't something that's over and above or unexpected amount of money. The second, just informational item, is that there's been a lot of activity or comments regarding a new federal economic grants of $1.8 trillion for the states. In the state of California, and some folks are making a push to get some of that monies to special districts. And I have just asked Chief Cox that before this district applies for any of that money or requests it, that the board of directors has an opportunity to know what's going on and vote on it. That's just informational item, nothing needs to be done. And the second item I'd make is that I think it's because the virtual opening of Station 41, and also I noticed that JB is wearing the cap, and I've worn the cap around a lot, and I've received a number of comments and questions regarding the fire district, who the heck we are, who owns it, and just really kind of things that kind of took me back. I didn't realize the lack of knowledge, and based upon that very small amount of money, I've made a few suggestions to Chief Cox that we might add some things to the our website, which, by the way, I think in total is outstanding. We've really come a long way with that. But I think there's a few things that might be added that might clarify who owns what and who the heck the Coastside Fire Protection District is. And I'm sure that'll be taken care of. That's just information item. Anything else? If not, without objection, we have adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Stay
Bye.
dry.
Thank you.
Good night, be safe.